everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kathleen, and today we are doing another book haul. The last book haul that I did was a few months ago, and it was from like January of this year to March. And so this book haul is going to be from April to May, and I have a total of 15 books to show you guys, and I don't even know how I managed to acquire 15 books in the span of 2 months. I feel like I don't buy books as much as I used to at the very beginning of my channel. I used to do monthly book hauls because I bought so many books. There's nothing wrong with buying books. I love books. I love collecting books. You guys know very well we are all book lovers here. So let's just go ahead and get started with this book haul. Alright, so I'm going to start first with the books that I bought in the month of April. And so the first book that I got is Defy the Fates by Claudia Gray, which is the third and final book in the Defy the Stars trilogy, which is about a robot named Abel who develops a human soul, and he kind of has to partner up with this human soldier, with this female soldier, to save their planets from going to war. It's really good. I really love it. It is definitely one of my favorite young adult sci-fi series set in space, and you guys know, if you've been on my channel for a while, how much I love sci-fi books set in outer space now. I really love the character development in this book, especially Abel, who is the robot. I have not read this book yet, but I really want to. Alright, and then the second book that I got in April was Sky Without Stars by Jessica Brody and Joanne Rendell, and this is another sci-fi book set in space. I actually don't know too much what this book is about. I got this from my Unplugged book box for the month of April, so I'll leave it linked in the screen and as well as down below if you guys would like to check it out. I love that this is a sci-fi book set in space. Again, I don't know too much about it. It seems like there's a revolution and there's these three characters that are kind of taking part. It's a sci-fi book set in space, and honestly that's all I need to know because I love sci-fi books set in space. And the next book that I got is The Epidemic by Suzanne Young. This is actually the fourth book in the program series. There's like 6 books on a series right now, and I got this from Barnes & Noble because it was really cheap. It was actually on sale. It was on a clearance aisle at Barnes & Noble. It's like $5, and I love this series. I don't love the covers too much, but I love the series. I read the first 2 books, and it is about, it's this dystopian world where suicide amongst teenagers had become a real epidemic, so the government creates the program, and the program doesn't necessarily work ethically, and it's really good, and I really enjoyed the series. So when I saw this at the clearance aisle, of course I ended up getting it because I really enjoyed the series, and I cannot wait to continue on with the series. And the next book is another sci-fi book set in outer space that I'm really excited to read, and it is Nixia by Scott Ranger. I apologize, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but this is about a boy who gets selected to be one of these very few recruits to go to the planet of Eden, and they are going to help mine this resource called Nixia. There are humanoids on this planet that they kind of have to deal with, and I don't know honestly too much about it, but again, it is a sci-fi book set in outer space, and it sounds really good, so I'm excited to read it whenever I get to it. Alright, and then the next book that I got is a sequel to a book I still haven't read, and it is Shadow Song by S.J. Jones, and this is the sequel to Winter Song. I honestly don't even know what Winter Song is about. I've had that book for so long and I still haven't read it. I do know that there's a Goblin King and her sister gets kidnapped, and that's pretty much all I know. I honestly love these covers, and that's part of the reason why I bought the first book in the first place, because I think the first book also has a gorgeous cover, but this one just sings to me. It really speaks to me how beautiful this cover is. But I honestly do need to get to the first book because I've had it for so long, and I have the second book. And the next book that I got is Guardian by Alex London. This is the sequel to Proxy, which I read a few months ago, and I loved Proxy. Proxy is about, it's this dystopian world where the poor people are proxies to the rich people. The rich people are allowed to have proxies, and basically if the rich people does something bad, the proxies are the ones who take the punishment. So our main character, he does something bad. He gets in a car accident where he kills his passenger, and so his proxy is sentenced to death, and so he kind of has to help out his proxy, and it's a really good book. I actually really enjoyed it. I still haven't read it. It's a really short book, and I'm hoping to get to it very soon. Alright, and then the next book that I got is Grave Mercy by Robin Levenfevers. I think that's how you pronounce the last name. I apologize if it's not, but I bought this book because I just love the new cover design. The original cover, it doesn't speak to me. I don't like it, but these are so pretty, and I honestly been wanting to read it for a while, but I never bought the book just because the cover kind of just didn't do it for me. But these are so gorgeous, and it is about a girl who flees her arranged marriage and she takes sanctuary at this convent, and at this convent she becomes an assassin, and pretty much that's all I know, and I'm excited to read this book. Alright, and then the next book that I got is Restore Me by Tahara Mafi. I bought this book, I believe, at a used bookstore for really cheap, and this is the 4th book to the Shatter Me series. I know that there's more books out. I did read the original Shatter Me trilogy, and I actually really enjoyed the series. It is a dystopian series with sci-fi elements. It's about this girl who has special powers, and she can't touch anyone without hurting them, and it's really good, and that's why I decided to buy this book, especially since it was really cheap. And the final book that I got during the month of April was actually my Owl Crate book, and it is Wicked Saints by Emily A. Duncan, which is a book I really want to get to very soon because it sounds really good. It's about this girl who can talk to the gods. There's this war, and she kind of has to help a prince and a mage, and they kind of have to try to kill the king in order to end the war. I think that's what it is, but I've heard a lot of great things about this book, so I'm really excited to dive into this book. And this cover is gorgeous. I love the Owl Crate edition. I mean, it's not that much different from the original cover, but I really like this color scheme. It's really pretty. Alright, and then the next book that I bought is the first book that I bought in the month of May, and it is Aurora Rising. I can never say that word properly, by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. All I know about this book is that it is a sci-fi book set in outer space, and it's about these people these cadets who just graduated, I think. And honestly, I don't need to know anymore because it is Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff who wrote the Illuminae Files, which is one of my favorite series of all time. And I've been hearing mixed reviews on this book, but I want to go into this book with an open mind. I'm so excited. So excited. Alright, and then the next book that I bought during the month of May is a book that I already read, and it is definitely one of my favorite books that I read this year, and definitely one of my favorite books of all time. I just cannot gush enough about this book, and it is Descendant of the Crane by Joan He. I was very fortunate enough to go to BookCon, and she was there and she was signing books, and so I did get my book signed, and I was so excited. I was so happy to have met her. It's based on Chinese fantasy. It's about this girl whose father dies. He's the emperor, now she has become the empress, but she believes her father was murdered or assassinated, and so she's trying to figure out why. There's a lot of like Game of Thrones kind of thing where nobody trusts anybody. There's a lot of trust issues. You honestly, as the reader, don't know who to trust. There's a lot of sneakiness going around. This book takes you by surprise almost every chapter. I love this book. It left me gasping. It left me on the edge of my seat, and I cannot believe how this book ended. And the fact is that a sequel is not guaranteed for this book. Joan He, according to her Goodreads and her website that I've read, she was only contracted to write this one book. So she kind of did wrap up a few things about the story, but she left it really open-ended, and she left a lot of things unanswered because she's kind of hoping that her publishing company will allow her to write sequels for this book if this book does well enough. So go buy this book and read it because it's so good. I want her to write the sequel because the way it ended is not right. It needs to have a sequel. I desperately need a sequel. I gave this book 5 stars because it is so fantastic. Alright, and then the next book that I got during the month of May is Roost by Cindy Pon, which is the sequel to Want. And it's a dystopian series with sci-fi elements, and it is set in Taiwan. It is about basically the world has been polluted really badly, and now people wear these suits in order to be able to breathe properly, breathe clean air, because if you don't, you're more likely to die at a very young age due to the very bad pollution. And because there is this great gap between the rich and the poor are barely able to afford these suits, so the poor die a lot faster than the rich people who are able to afford these suits. And so our main character kind of wants to bridge the gap, and I really enjoyed the first book. I really liked it. I really liked the characters. I gave that book 4 stars, but this book didn't quite live up to the first book. I liked how everything ended. I don't know, for some reason I just couldn't connect to this book as much as I connected to the first. Alright, and then the next book that I bought during the month of May is another book that I already read, and it is Nexus by Sasha Alsberg and Lindsay Cummings. This is the sequel to Zenith. I have to say, this book I did not enjoy as much as the first book. Now, when Zenith came out, it had a lot of controversy because people thought it was way too hyped because of who the authors were, and the book just didn't live up to that hype, so it ended up getting a lot of bad reviews. I went into that book after hearing all these bad reviews with very low expectations, and I ended up really liking Zenith. I really enjoyed that book, but when I went into this book, I was expecting to enjoy it as much as Zenith. I don't know what it was, I just didn't quite enjoy this book as much as the first book. I felt like this book was a little bit more rushed. I don't know what it was. And the next book that I got is Every Moment After by Joseph Moldover. This is a book that I got during my May Unplugged book box, which again, I'll leave it linked on the screen if you would like to check it out, or down below in the description box. But this book is a book that I've never read before. The theme behind it, the story behind it, the message behind it is something that I've never read before, and I feel like it's something that I kind of mentally have to prepare for. It is about these boys who, as young children, experience a school shooting where their friend dies during that school shooting, so they kind of had to grow up with this trauma. And so that's pretty much all I know about this book. Again, I really have to mentally prepare myself for these kinds of books with these heavy subjects. If any of you guys have read this book, let me know down in the comments below how you felt about it, because I would really love to know. Alright, and the 15th and final book on this book haul is the last book that I got during the month of May, and it is We Hunt the Flame by Hassan Faisal. I apologize, I do not know if I pronounced that correctly. I probably didn't, but this, I actually don't know too much about what this book is about, but it's been getting a lot of attention. It is set in ancient Arabia, it has an assassin, and it is a fantasy book, and I'm really excited to read it because I've been hearing a lot of great things about this book. This was my outcrave book for the month of May, and I really cannot wait to dive into this. And there you go, guys, that is all for this book haul. Let me know down in the comments below if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, because I would really love to know your opinions. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like if you did, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. All of my social medias are linked down below, including Twitter, Instagram, and Goodreads, if you'd like to follow me on those platforms. I hope to see you guys on my next video. Have a good day, guys, and keep reading. Bye!